Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another one of our spring bulb webinars. And tonight we have Mandy Bartell. She is actually a teacher at the British Columbia Academy in China and has a great story to tell about how she's using bulb with her Chinese students who are also looking to get into college. They're going into college's international schools. And so Mandy will expand on that a little bit tonight, and she has a really interesting story. So, Mandy, we are so appreciative of you and your time, and I'm going to kick it over to you, and I'd love for you to tell our audience how you got started using bulb.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me. I started using bulb in 2015. The course I teach Planning 10 or Career Education 10. And that is a course that's intended for the students who follow the British Columbia Ministry of Education in Canada's curriculum to do a portfolio. And I was searching for ways to be able to have my students to do a portfolio online rather than doing it in a binder. So for years we had always done it in binders and had students collect information on their volunteer work, their physical activity, as well as their club experiences and some other small things. And it was just not really working with the binders for several reasons. So I wanted to do something that could make them more visible and global and let people, especially colleges and universities back in Canada and the U.S., to have a chance to actually see what our students have actually done. So I came across Bulb app after doing a lot of research. And the main reason I was very happy with Bulb app is number one reason is because the website is not blocked in China. I know for those back in the U.S. and Canada and other Western countries, they take for granted that you can get online to YouTube or to Google or to Facebook. And there's so many of these sites that are blocked here in mainland China because of the government restrictions. And because of that, I was looking for something that I was hoping was not going to be restricted. Unfortunately, Bulb app has not and is not and still working great, so that's good. So I had my students go ahead and make portfolios online because of that reason. The second reason is I really felt the customer service was really good for Bulb because if my students or myself would email them, I could get a really quick response from Bulb to help me or help my students to get around some of the uploading obstacles or password problems or small things that students couldn't figure out where the publish button is or something like that. So that is how I got involved in Bulb, and now I use it also with my current grade 12 students. I have grade 10s. I've got sophomores in high school and seniors in high school, and they're both taking a career education course. And for the current seniors, they're also using the Bulb app as part of their capstone project that they will present at the end of May, beginning of June.
That's great. Now, so for your students who are doing their capstone work, what kind of things are they putting in their portfolio? I know you were talking about your sophomores and they are putting in their service and physical activity and a couple other things. What does that capstone look like for your students?
The capstone is very similar to what they have to do in their grade 10 planning class, but in planning it's more comprehensive and there's a lot of smaller things that I ask them also to put on there, such as reflections from their personality tests or putting in interviews that they did with older students or with their parents or people they want to go into the same career. But for the grade 12s, I have them focus more just on the three areas. Oh, no, there's a fourth one. I forgot about the fourth one. The first one is the volunteer work. Over the course of 3 years, they need 90 hours of volunteer work, 30 hours in grade 10, 30 in 11, and 30 in grade 12. And so on Bulb, they have to put their pictures as well as their, like a written, like, blurb of a reflection of what they've learned, and the pictures are evidence of what they did. Then the second area is the physical activity again. They need 80 hours of physical activity every year to be documented by using logs as well as pictures too. So you can see students have a variety of types of activities, anything from like yoga to skateboarding to doing like Tai Chi or something called Chinese yo-yo, which are all types of which is really cool. Then you can see it on, see the pictures and everything comes up and all types of different physical activity. The third area is the club activities, which is we have a lot of different clubs that we have at school that the students can get involved in. We have a baseball club, we have a soccer club, we have DIY club, we have French club. So showing evidence that they've actually been a participant in the club rather than just say it, but showing by pictures as well as evidence they took. And then the fourth area that they put in their capstone project is called a hobby or special talent. So we try to pull out something that makes them more unique, because in this country there's not as much focus on the unique aspects, but back home there's a lot more focus on individuality. So we've had students who played the guitar. We've had students who can do origami. We have one student who can do the Rubik's Cube in a matter of less than a minute. So these kinds of things are then highlighted on their capstone project. And they'll also do a portfolio fair, and they have to do that in front of the teachers and the students. And that'll also be at the end of May, beginning of June, so they can actually showcase face-to-face what they're doing to the community here.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like those different categories. Now, do you think your students find it helpful that they have stuff in their portfolio from their sophomore year, and then when, they're building and looking to apply for colleges, being able to use the work that they've done in their portfolios with you to apply to colleges? Do you have students who are using their bulbs in that way?
Well, when you tell them in grade 10 that they have to do a portfolio and they've got to do it online, there's, of course, lots of sighs, exasperation. This is such a big project. Well, we'll never use this. But because I did start it in 2015 when the seniors I have were sophomores, that's kind of exciting for me because now I've gotten to actually see students who use it. And I'll use a case study of a girl named Shirley. Shirley came to me at the beginning, actually when she was in grade 10, she was not so excited about, it's a big project. Oh, I got to write so much. Oh, I've got to document it. But when they look back on it, they're happy, except they think they're not going to use it. Then when she was applying to universities in the U.S., there's a spot on the Common App where they can put their a website address or to a link to something, as well as she was applying to in the architecture area. So she had put pictures of a summer camp that she had attended in the U.S. in the summer, as well as done a lot of writing about different volunteer work. So she asked me, she was like, Ms. Bartell, do you happen to still have my bulb app address? I'm like, Shirley, you don't know what your address is? She said, no, but there's so much valuable information that I wrote on there. I want to use it for my university application. And I said, did you see this? This is extremely important. So she had taken the information and she then was able to obviously find her grammar and spelling mistakes after 2 years of, being away from her site. And then she modified it and was able to use the link as well as some of the stories that she had told 2 years ago to apply to university. And I know now, she just told me, Friday, that she was accepted and she's going to go to Syracuse University. And she'll be in the architecture program, so she's pretty excited about that.
Wow, that's huge. What a great accomplishment. Please tell Shirley we tell her big congratulations for sure. And that she can continue to use her bulb at Syracuse, and we're expected to have her put her great architecture in there. That's right. That's great. Okay, so
I think that's very cool.
What great stories you have and the things that you are doing with students. So you've been using bulbs for several years now. Do you have any tips for teachers in terms of helping students get motivated to keeping their bulbs updated or putting information in there? We know that you have kind of a unique situation there in terms of access to materials and internet and those kinds of things. But, if other teachers are listening, is there anything that you think that you might have to share that might be helpful as they're getting going with their students and using bulbs?
I've definitely learned that, students around the world, not just in China and not just in the U.S., they procrastinate. And they wait till the last minute to put things together if they're making a big project, such as a portfolio. And I know the internet speed is not nearly as big of a problem as it is here. Back home, I know it's much, much faster because servers are located for bulb. in the U.S. But for teachers to setting deadlines that are like throughout the semester and throughout the term is really important to make sure that the students are accountable and make sure they do things to keep them excited. I try to also have them, where they have to visit someone else's site. They really like the part where I have a part on when they do it for grade 10, they have to upload their memory pictures. I call it the grade 10 memory section. They get really excited about doing that because then, of course, they want to see what kind of silly pictures or funny pictures they've posted. So making it not always extremely formal, but showing also their like fun life is what's motivating for the other students to then want to look at the students' sites. And to be honest, most of them are only paying attention to the pictures. They're not paying as much attention to the writing as, of course, I am, because it's part of their project they have to read as well as that I have to mark. And the portions that they might use for a university, the pictures just make it more real for the university, especially when the students are far away. The sophomores, I rarely find a student who can really see the connection and how it's going to be more important once they get to applying for universities, because whenever they're sophomores, I'm sure we were the same. Sophomores feels like it's so far away before you're going to apply to university, but actually in reality it's only like 2 years later. And for us who are older, 2 years flies by like it was yesterday, but for them it's like an eternity. But when they get to being seniors, and if they, especially the ones applying more to the U.S. than Canada, just because Canada their application process is not nearly as complicated as in the U.S., that is a motivator for the students to at least make sure their bulb looks nice so they have something to show to the university, and they like to fill in all the blanks on an application. So that part can really help when they want to copy and paste something and like show, yeah, I did that. They just need to do some modification based on spelling and grammar and stuff, because they will find that their English level has, even back home, is really improved in 2 years after they've been in high school.
Wow, those are great tips. I love how you were talking about allowing the students to have a little bit of fun with their portfolio, to bring a little motivation in terms of getting their peers involved and for themselves. I think that's kind of an important part that sometimes from school perspective we forget about, and a portfolio is such a perfect place to have students show their personality and some of their fun things that they're really passionate about. I love that piece, and talking about the procrastinating, helping them understand that, when they're sophomores, they don't necessarily understand. I was at a softball game, and they had the seniors talk to the underclassmen and tell them, what's your best advice? And they're like, it goes so quickly. And it's like anything, when you're a senior and you're looking back, you think, oh, it went so quickly. But when you're that sophomore, you're like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So
exactly. It happens all around the world. It's not just it happened to us, I'm sure, when we were young, too. And I'm sure it's happened to anyone who's listening to this. They can emphasize, like, oh, yeah. And as we get older, it's just time keeps going faster and faster.
Yeah. Which I love that, bulb is used all around the world. We're in 70 different countries, and that, there's so many similarities between students and just who they are as teenagers, and that similarity, even though cultures and challenges and stuff can be vastly different, it's great to kind of recognize and see those, those similarities too. And I know you had kind of mentioned about servers and, access in terms of speed. And so one of the neat things about Bulb that is happening is that we are growing. And so we are actually making some big changes in the next couple months in terms of where some of our servers are located at. And our user base around the world is just growing. And so we're making some big changes to support some requirements that are out in the UK, as well as kind of around the world, to make things more accessible and faster. And so hopefully that helps out with your students too. So Mandy, I just so much appreciate your time and your dedication into using Bulb. And if anybody watching has any questions or wants to connect with Mandy, they can always reach out to me at Bria, B-R-I-A, at bulbapp.com, and I can help you get connected with Mandy if you have any further questions for her. So, Mandy, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. It was fun.
Good.